This is the Better Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Brandon Turner, here without my co-host once again, Mr. Cam Cathcart. I promise Cam will be back. He's just doing some traveling with his family. Lucky guy. Well, today's episode, I'm super pumped to bring you. But before I do, quick story. So my wife told me to pick up 6 cans of Sprite at the grocery store. But when I got home, I realized I had picked 7 up. It's always weird to tell a dad joke and not have Cam here to laugh at it. But whatever. What's up, everyone? Speaking of, I got no connection to that one. Speaking of 7-Up, I'm going to give you 7 reasons why today's episode is so phenomenal. Number 1, we're talking about campgrounds. Number 2, we're talking about cash flow. Number 3, we're talking about a bunch of cool stuff. 4, 5, 6, 7. That's why this show is so good. In fact, actually, I said it at the end of the show, but I'm like, this was like a perfect podcast episode in my mind. It was like we covered a new topic that we never really talk about. We went deep on it. We got a ton of like how to get started, how to get into it. We hear stories. We go into some personal stuff about raising kids and all this stuff. It was so good. I think you're going to love today's episode with Kevin Thueson. Super cool guy. I met him a few months ago at one of the Maui master classes out here in Maui. And at the time I was like, dude, you need to come on the podcast. So him and his wife flew out here and we got Kevin on the show today. So with that said, that's pretty much it. Hey, if you like this show, do me a favor. Would you leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts at? Just let us let the internet know this is a good show and you like it. And if you're not following me at over on Instagram, I want to invite you to do so. That's where I share a bunch of real estate stuff. Just Beardy Brandon, Beardy Brandon. With that said, I think that's enough introduction. So why don't we get to the episode with Kevin Thueson. Kevin Thueson, what's up, man? Welcome.
How's it going?
Dude, I'm so pumped to have you here because, we hung out here in Maui, I don't know when that was, like a year ago, 6 months ago?
September?
Yeah, September. Yeah. And I never really got your full story. Like, I know what you do, and I never got to hear, like, how you got into that. So I'm pumped about today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Good, man. All right, well, so I want to start with just the big question. Why should somebody consider investing in campgrounds?
It's a great question. There's a lot.
They shouldn't. End of show. Good.
There's a lot of great investment options out there.
Sure.
But what we really like, why we got into this was, there's some things that are different. A couple important ones is one, this is not top of mind for most people. So there's not that many people doing it. There's not that many people that understand it or know about it, which creates an opportunity. And what that means is we're able to buy really great assets that are cash flow positive, and we're buying at 9 caps, 10 caps.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And it's kind of a hybrid of a hospitality business backed by real estate. And so you get the cash flow and the upside of the business with the risk adjusted return of the real estate. And one of the things that really drew me to this was there's a lot of different levers that you can pull in campgrounds where you have some options and some things you can do that are a little bit different. So you've got kind of your traditional almost mobile home park model where you own the dirt and you rent it out. We're just doing it on, a nightly, weekly, monthly basis. We have a retail component. We have activities, but then we can look at reallocating our mix of, are we going to do short-term sites versus long-term? We can take a basic tent site that's, making $40 a night, put a nice patio, put some electric and hookups for an RV and turn it into a luxury site that's doing $120 a night. And so you get to play around with things quite a bit. And, the cool part about it is, this is the outdoor recreation world, right? So people are out having a good time. You get to be a part of that, provide a really cool experience.
That's cool. Well, take us back before all that, before we got into campgrounds. Who was Kevin Thueson?
So my background is in accounting.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Most people would be surprised by that, to be honest, including the partners that I used to work for. I grew up in Utah, went to school, and didn't really know what I wanted to do, right? Never had any kind of inkling of, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start a business. I want to do this. It was, I was actually about 2 semesters away from graduating with a degree in Spanish. I served a mission in Costa Rica, came home, was fluent in Spanish. So I started taking Spanish classes and got married in college. My wife and I had our first kid, our daughter, while we were still in school. And so I'm getting close to graduating and she sat me down one day and she's like, so tell me what we're doing here. Like, are you going to be a middle school Spanish teacher? Which if that's what you want, that's fine, but let's talk about it. And it was really kind of that moment, like, okay, I need to figure this out because that's not actually what I wanted to do. And so I started taking business classes, gravitated towards accounting, And then when I finished school, I started with PricewaterhouseCoopers, Big Four firm, doing financial audit of private companies, and moved to DC. Did that for 6 years, and then we relocated to Seattle, lived there for 4 years, and continued to work there. So I was about 10 years in public accounting, and for the last 8 years of it was trying to figure out, how do I not do this anymore?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did you like it? Was it like you enjoyed work, or like were you tormented by it?
I mean, there were some really, really cool things about it. I worked with some awesome people. I had some great clients. And, when you're in your mid 20s and you get to sit down with CEOs and CFOs of billion-dollar companies and, talk about their business and how they run things and what's important, what their struggles are, what their challenges are, like, you get exposed to a lot of really cool things. And so that aspect of it, I liked, but I just did not find any real fulfillment in it. At the end of the day, all you're doing is telling people whether or not the financial statements of this company are reasonably accurate. It's not something that really lit me up. So it was actually only about a couple years in where I was looking for something else, but I just didn't know what it was. And living in DC, all my friends were working for the FBI, for the CIA, and you think they have these really cool jobs. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just do that. So I started applying, going through that process, and realized really quick that was not going to work for me. Right.
What, you just like the hours, or?
Well, it turns out I would not be a great spy.
Okay.
And the interviewer told me that pretty quickly. And just, it was, the situation really was, I was just trying to run away from something that I wasn't happy with. And my brother-in-law at the time sat me down and was like, look, I know that you're not happy. I know that you want something else, but you're just running away from this. Before you do that, why don't you find something to run to? And that really hit home, because I realized that I'd be in the same situation in 18 months. Right.
I had a pastor once say, he said, I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's basically like, when people who leave their job to go to the next job, they find out that the person they didn't like the most at that last job is at the new one. It's yourself. like you just take yourself with you everywhere you go. And so you never actually improve, even though you think you're going to.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally a grass is greener. You just don't know, but you think, if I do something different, it'll be better.
Yeah.
But like, if you're not better, then why would that be any better?
Yeah.
And so that was really why I ended up sticking around for another 8 years, because I just didn't know what it was that I wanted to do. And I liked the people I worked with. I really liked the opportunities. I was learning some really cool stuff. And in hindsight, it was the greatest option for me, because it really prepared me to actually understand how to run a business and what's important.
Every business I've ever started and failed at, which has been a number of them, every one, the reason that I failed, or even the business that I've succeeded but struggled, it's always the same reason. It's my financial accounting wasn't good enough. Like, I didn't actually know I was making money or wasn't making money. And like, if I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self just that piece of advice, is like, get good at account. You don't have to be an accountant necessarily, but understand money, how it flows in, how it flows out. Like, every one of my businesses would have been better.
Being able to read a financial statement and understand the story it's telling you and what it's not telling you. I honestly feel like now I can look back and say I was, very fortunate to have been guided by outside forces to do that, because it was like, it was really important and key for me to get to where we are now.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So where did the idea of real estate come from, and what was your kind of beginning in that?
So, it's kind of an interesting story. I had a friend in college, like our first married friends, that he was a serial entrepreneur, had gone to school and then dropped out and started a business, and then decided he'd go back and start a business. And we hadn't talked in probably 12 years, long time. And we were living in Seattle at the time, and we got word that his house had burned down. They had a fire, and ended up buying a motorhome and hit the road for like 3 or 4 months. Let's get out of here. Let's go do this. And so, for whatever reason, I felt like it was time to reconnect and just catch up with him. So I sent him a note, was like, hey, I know you're on the East Coast, but you don't have anywhere else to be. You don't need to go home. Why don't you drive up to Seattle and let's hang out? So he's like, sure, we'll do it. So they ended up coming up. We spent a week or two just hanging out and talking about life and what was going on. And he's like, look, I know that you got to do something different. This is try this. And he gave me a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, cool.
And I remember my roommate in college reading that. And at the time, I was the guy, I was like, oh, that's silly. Like, who's reading these personal development books and all this stuff? Like, that's dumb. And so he gave me a copy of that. I read it in like 2 days, got Cashflow Quadrant, read that. And I was like, okay, this actually sounds pretty exciting, because even if I don't love real estate, it can still create a platform that allows me to do other things.
Yep.
Right. And so it was at that point, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I think there's a huge opportunity here. Now I just got to figure out how to do it. And that was a big question mark at the time. Cause I didn't know. I mean, we'd bought a couple houses before, and, we had some equity in our place in Seattle, and, but we were living paycheck to paycheck. I think at the time I had about $2,000 in my account. Right. And we'd been living in and remodeling our house, for 4 years, at that point. But it was like, I really want to do this, but I just don't know how. And I was not in a situation where I could go to my family and say, hey, we're going to sell our house. We're going to buy a duplex.
Yeah.
And we're going to live in one side of it for 2 years. We're going to rent out the other side, and then we'll sell it, and then we'll do it again, and then we'll do it again, and slowly build it up. I was at a point where I had to go big and go all in all at once. And so that led me to the path of, okay, well, how can I buy one deal that is the equivalent of doing 20, 30, 40 deals?
Yeah.
And I started to, just absorb everything I could. It's podcasts, it's online articles. At the risk of sounding cheesy, at your time in Bigger Pockets, it was a big deal for me, right? I was listening to everything you were putting out and reading, and that was this was 2017. So around the time, if I remember right, that you were getting pretty excited about mobile home parks.
Yeah.
And I really liked that model, because it's like, okay, well, I can buy one property, but maybe it's 30 or 40 units, and the scale of it makes a lot more sense. So I started to really invest in education, and just spent all my nights, all my weekends. How do I learn everything about this? Went to Charleston for mobile home park boot camp.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Was that a Frank Rolfe one?
It was Frank Rolfe.
That's great. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was awesome. And I ended up going with this friend who gave me a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and we're like, okay, well, let's do this. We'll partner together. So we flew out to Charleston, spent the weekend, come back super motivated. Okay, all we got to do is we got to make a list of the parks and the areas we want to go, and then we'll find out who owns it, and we'll start calling them, sending them letters. And we realized pretty quick that was tough. Yeah. Right? We didn't have any experience, didn't have a whole lot of capital, and we're competing against people that really knew what they were doing and were much better buyers than we were. And at that point, it was kind of like, he says, I've got my business. I got to do this. I'm not sure this is going to make a whole lot of sense. You find a deal, send it to me, and we'll take a look. And we were considering moving back to Utah at the time, where my wife and I grew up. We'd been away for 10 years. Our kids, had kind of grown up away from their cousins and grandparents. And we thought, let's get back. And came across a campground that was for sale in Utah. And I started to look at it and realized there's a lot of similarities between mobile home parks and campgrounds. You've got killer depreciation. You own the land. You just rent a place for people to park their RVs. All these things about it that I really enjoyed, and it allowed me to then take, okay, I can actually build something around this that is based off of the lifestyle that I like, the type of activities that I want to do. Like I can be a professional camper. I can go hiking. I can go biking. I can do all these things, and that's part of my job. Right. And I can help people have those same experiences and be a part of that. And it like, again, coming back to what I said earlier, there's a lot of people and forces and things that pushed us in this direction. And it was right place, right time, right deal. Seller was motivated. Seller financing option. We were able to get in with a low down payment. And to make it happen, we had to make some hard decisions. It was not like, okay, well, this is just, we'll send an offer, we're good to go. We sold our house.
Wow, yeah.
And we sold our house in March of 2018. Made more on it than we thought we would, and that gave us the capital to do the deal. But at that point, we still didn't actually have the deal in place. So we sold and then leased it back through the end of the school year. So we kind of started the timeline of, we got to figure something out, because we're now priced out. We can't stay here because we now don't own anything.
Yep.
And there's nothing else we can buy here that would work.
You still have the job at this point?
Still had the job.
Okay.
So that, that was kind of a fallback. But how we would have survived, I mean, we would have ended up having to move quite a bit further outside of Seattle and renting. And
I want to dig into this first deal a little bit more. Before I do, though, we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. But one thing we do in the show is we set aside all the profits from the show toward charity of the guest's choosing. So what's the charity or cause that we're sending money to today?
So our charity of choice is Care Camps Foundation.
Okay. Care Campus?
Care Camps.
Camps. Okay. Tell me about that.
So Care Camps was actually started by the KOA Owners Association, Campground of America, franchise campground business. And they are oncology camps for children with cancer.
Oh, wow.
So kids who spend their life in hospital rooms hooked up to machines, don't get to experience, the normal childhood things that a lot of kids do. And so Care Camps facilitates and pays for sponsors, essentially, these kids and their families to go to summer camps where they have all the equipment, they have all the resources, the nurses, everything there, so they can be safe, but have that same experience.
Dude, that's amazing. I'd not heard of that. Well, we will send money over that way. So I know I'm fairly well off financially, right? But did you know I still house hack? Like, that's right. I've got an extra couple units at my house here in Maui, and I decided to actually rent one of them out because, hey, it's like almost $2,000 a month, and I'm an investor, so why not? Do you know the first thing I did when I decided to rent that out? I went to turbotenant.com because there I can advertise the unit, screen for potential tenant, sign the state-specific lease, get automatic rent payments set up, track my income and expenses, and even communicate with my new tenant via the app. It literally made the process so much easier. So whether you've got, one unit or a ton of units, check out turbotenant.com. I love it, and I know you will too. Let them know I sent you. All right, we're back. Let's go into that first deal then. So you said you had to make some hard decisions, sold the house. How did you even find that deal? Was it like listed MLS, broker? Like how do you come across it?
So it was listed on rvparkstore.com.
rvparkstore.com.
Yep.
Okay.
And like you would expect, you look at some of these online listings, and most of the stuff on there has already been looked at, been passed on. And, I think this deal was just a little bit small. It was, it had a lot of opportunity, but also needed a lot of work. Right. And so this is in a town of 900 people.
Wow.
And there's 4 campgrounds in town. There's no stoplights. There's a hardware store, grocery store, a couple of restaurants, but 4 campgrounds, including a state park.
Wow. And
so it scared a lot of people away.
Yeah.
And but I looked at it and said, this has, I think, all of it checks all the boxes, right? It's on a major highway that has a ton of traffic that comes through. You're within an hour of multiple national parks in central Utah. You've got all of these recreational activities that can be there. And there's room for expansion. There's land that can be developed. It was kind of a distressed asset at the time. We actually drove down there. My truck went in the shop and we got a rental, like a loaner car. And on the weekend, just kind of spur of a moment, like, hey, let's go drive down and look at it. We've got this loaner car. Let's put some miles on it.
That's awesome.
So we drove down there and we pull in, and my daughter, who was like 11 at the time, this is February. It's not peak season. The park's open, but there's nobody there. And it is just a dirt parking lot in the desert. And my daughter's like, Dad, why do you want to buy this? This place is ugly. And I was like, no, it makes a lot of sense. You just don't understand. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I mean, it'd been on the market for over a year, and we were able to negotiate a great deal. and the seller was a great guy and worked with us and made it possible. And one of the things that I really liked about it was, having never run a business before, having never done this, I didn't know the first thing about how do you actually operate a campground, right? Like, how do you set up a website? How do you take reservations? What kind of systems do you need? How do you even accept credit card payments?
Yep.
Like, at that time, I don't think I even understood, okay, well, you got to get a credit card merchant account, and that's how you can accept payments. You can choose, you know, which cards to accept and how to do that, and how do you market it. And this campground was a franchise. It was part of the KOA franchise system.
Yep.
And that really drew me to it, because I knew that there was a support system there. There were people I could call. They were invested in me being successful as a franchisee. And so that really calmed a lot of the nerves of, we can close, like, I can figure out how to make the deal, but then the day that we take over and the previous owner's gone, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, how do you actually run it?
Yeah, that's the benefit, of course, of like franchises. Like, I think I once heard a stat that said 90% of businesses fail within the first 5 years, but 90% of franchises are still around within the first 5 years. So it's like the exact opposite. And the reason is exactly what you just said. You get all the stuff, they've already got the systems and processes, the accounting stuff, all that stuff that can derail a business. It's like right there for you. Now, for that, do you think you paid more money than you would have had you done a non-KOA? Like, or
no, I mean, as far as like franchise fees and the purchase price, it's very reasonable, to be honest.
Okay.
I looked at the time, I looked at other franchise systems just to see what it costs and what their royalties were. And to be honest, I felt KOA was really reasonable. And we were looking at another independent park in that general area at the same time. And the numbers for this KOA were just better. I didn't think it was a better park, but it just performed better.
Yeah.
And I felt that there was a lot of that was because of the brand, the system, right? The recognition. And so from that standpoint, we maybe paid a little bit more because it was probably worth more.
Yeah, it's probably a little less risky. Yeah, I love KOAs. And like my wife and I, that's the only campground. I mean, if we can stay at a KOA, it's always going to be a KOA. When we drive around the country, we've done it a few times and taken extended road trips. Yeah, KOA is always where I go, because it's like I just interviewed a guy named Sujay on the podcast who does motels and hotels, and it was the same. We talked about the same thing with, like, if I'm traveling to a city, I can go stay at the roadside inn I've never heard of, or I can stay at the Hilton. I'm going to stay at the Hilton because I know what to expect.
Yep.
With KOA, I just know what to expect, so I always just do that, and I can book it on the app, and like it's just simple and streamlined. It's always great, and every time I stay at one, I walk around, I'm just like, oh, I love this. I should buy these. Like this. Like,
you should buy these.
I should buy this. And we've not yet bought one. I mean, we have a lot of mobile home parks with RV spots, but we don't have a dedicated like campground or RV park yet. Someday.
Yeah.
Someday.
I can help you with
that. I bet you can.
Let's talk.
Yeah. So is there a difference between a RV park and a campground in your, like, as you've done this? Like, is that just interchangeable, or is one different than the other?
I mean, so most of our properties, the majority of the business, the majority of the campsites are RV sites.
Okay.
But I think the distinction in general is people think of RV park as something that's more of a long-term or a trailer park, right? It's kind of affordable housing.
Yep.
And there are different types of RV parks and campgrounds, some that really cater only to long-term people. It could be construction workers, could be traveling nurses, could be just people who live in that area and it's an affordable way to live. And, they have a great RV that they're comfortable in. And so, and then you've got some that are like most of ours, which are more focused on, outdoor hospitality, tourism, transient, shorter term stays as people that are on vacation. So I think that the phrases get used interchangeably, but at the end of the day, we're talking about the same thing. We've got a mix of, we say campground, because we've got a mix of RV sites, we've got cabins, we've got tent sites, we've got glamping sites, and then a whole bunch of amenities, where I think people typically think of an RV park and they think it's just a place where you park your trailer. And
yeah, makes sense. I know RVs got real popular, during COVID. Like, I mean, everyone was buying an RV, and so I can see it being really big, but it seemed to have dipped. Have you noticed a dip since then? Like, is it slowing down?
Yeah. So it's really interesting, because when I was first doing all my diligence on this, I looked at the industry and KOA in particular. And, in 2018, they were coming off of now like an 8 to 9 year, bull run. It was, they've been growing every year at a steady pace. Things are going good. We hit COVID and it was, like 60% year over year growth.
Yeah.
It was really unsustainable. Operationally was hard. Staffing was really hard. And over the last couple of years, there's been a whole lot of outside factors, right? You've got inflation, you've got, interest rates going really high. You've got a lot of economic uncertainty. And so it's really kind of leveled out. It's come down off of the peak highs of 2021. And the last couple of years have been relatively flat or down a little bit. And if you take out this really abnormal spike in late 2020, all of 2021, and then early 22, if you pull all that out, we're still on that same steady growth trajectory that we were on going back to 2010 when the industry was recovering from the 2008 crisis. So you could look at it a couple different ways. You could say COVID was great for the industry because it brought a lot more attention. A lot more people bought RVs. People went out and camped for the first time. The number of households that consider themselves camping households is now higher than it's ever been.
Really?
You could also look at it and say it might be a really detrimental thing to the industry because now people look at 2-3 year history and say, oh, your numbers aren't that great. You're down 5% in your camper nights and your revenue is not growing. Like, what's wrong? Is this the end? But if you pull all that out, we're, 2024 was well above where we were in 2019. And so it just depends on which lens you apply to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. How does funding work on one of these? Did you go to a local bank? Or is this a Wells Fargo kind of thing or seller financing, did you say?
So we've done a bunch of different things. My first deal, I couldn't get a loan. I went to a couple of banks, local banks. I tried the SBA route, and it turns out lenders don't love it if you quit your job and don't have an income anymore and then want to start a business for the first time. So that really pushed us to make the seller financing possible.
Yeah.
Couple of years in, numbers were up. We were doing well. We'd put in a bunch of improvements to the park, and we were able to refinance through a local credit union. And drop our interest rate, pull some money out to do a couple more acquisitions and keep our debt service about what it was before with the previous note. And so we've done a mix of, local credit unions, smaller regional banks. We've done a couple loans with some bigger kind of national lenders. It's evolving. It's not quite where it is with some other real estate asset classes. It's a lot easier to get a loan for multifamily than something like this because there is that transient or hospitality aspect. It's not people are there for 6 months, 24 months, but interest rates are more competitive now than they were 7 years ago when I started, and a lot more opportunities are coming into that space. And there's now, like, we've seen some larger groups do big CMBS refinances within that. So we see it evolving quite a bit.
That's cool. What'd you pay for that very first property? Like, what was that?
So it was $1.25 million.
Okay.
At the time when we bought it, it was doing about $375,000 in gross revenue.
Okay.
We were able to get it with a 15% down payment. And, again, a lot of people helped us on this journey. And one of those was the broker that we worked with when we bought the park. Because the seller, when we first entered into the contract, was really comfortable with the deal and the terms, and shortly before closing decided he needed a little bit more cash. He realized he had some expenses and some things, and came back and said, I need another $250,000. And we didn't have it. I mean, all we had was what we sold our house for, and we were putting everything into this, right? And I'd already now quit my job, and now I'm homeless and unemployed. And now, facing whether or not this deal is actually going to go through. And the broker kind of made it happen. He went out and found a third-party private money lender to come in and do a second note.
Oh, really?
And bridge the gap.
That's cool.
And so, people ask me a lot about, working with brokers and working with partners, and what's the benefit of this? Like, but that deal would never have happened if we hadn't had the right people helping us out.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. Did you plan to live at the campground? Was that the goal when you bought it?
Not long term. So
Okay.
when we closed on it, it was the day after Memorial Day of 2018. My kids were still in school in Seattle. I moved down and moved into one of the little log cabins, 10 by 10, no bathroom, no kitchen, just a bed with a mattress. And I hired my brother to help me manage it. And we stayed in that cabin together for a month.
Wow.
My little dog, and brought my son down for about a week. And the owners that we bought from were living in the apartment above the store, and took about 3 weeks to a month to get their stuff out and move out and relocate. So yeah, we moved in and ran the business from the ground up. It was very planned out and intentional of, I need to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
I got to understand everything about it, because if this is going to be the start of building something bigger, I need to make sure I'm comfortable with it. And if I ever take this out to someone else and say, this is a good opportunity, I've got to be able to show that I know how to do it.
What was your wife, her attitude throughout this process? Like, hey, honey, I got this stable job. We live in Seattle. Like, things are great. Kids are in school. I want to go sell everything, move into a campground, or, go buy a campground. Like, what was her thought process? Was she with you?
Yes, she was. So my wife is awesome. She knew that I was really unsatisfied and unhappy at work, and she knew I needed to do something different. And she never said no. She never questioned it. She believed in me. And we had the conversation with friends and family, like, this is what we're doing.
Did they all think you were nuts?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like so at work at the time, we had just won a big contract at Starbucks, one of my clients, and I was, the manager on that job, and had a big role in fulfilling that multi-year contract. And sat down with the partner in the Starbucks cafe at their headquarters, and he thought we were going to have a conversation about my future and where it's going. I was up for promotion to director, and in his mind, it's like, okay, this is the time he's going to come and he's going to ask me for these things, that we're going to come up with a plan on how we forge a path for him to get to partner over time. And had that conversation of, look, I appreciate everything you've done. This is awesome. I'm going to leave, and I'm going to go buy a campground in central Utah, in a town of 900 people in the desert. And he laughed, thought I was joking. Like, there's no way that, and it was the same kind of thing. People who hadn't put in the work to understand real estate and the opportunities there, they think you're crazy. You walk away from a big promotion at, a globally recognized powerhouse company. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
And but my wife never once questioned it. She knew that it was what I wanted to do, and she just believed. Whether or not she saw the opportunity that I did, I don't think mattered that much to her. She just believed that I believed it.
Yeah, that's cool. Where'd you meet your wife?
We met in college.
Okay.
The first weekend at Utah State, moved up, and we met at a party. And we were engaged 3 months later and married 4 months after that.
That's awesome. You got 2 kids?
Two kids.
Ages? They're
18 and 16.
All right. So you've been through it. So I'll drill you on some parenting questions in a little bit.
Yeah.
Going back, do you have any advice for people who are in the position you were? They've got a career, they've got stable, I got a house, job, family, kids in school. It's everybody in the world would say they're stable, and they're so blessed to be there, but they're miserable. And they're just like, they know that they want something different of life. What advice do you have for them to make that jump or make that leap?
It takes a lot to make that decision, but I've heard this a lot, and I've heard you say it. I know Dan Martell talks about it a lot, that people don't change until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of the change. And if you're not to that point yet, it might be hard to make some of those decisions. But I guess the advice there is, anybody can do it. You just have to find out how to believe in yourself. And I think that's the hardest step for people. Is you can look at others who do it and think, that's awesome, I'm jealous, they're super successful, but they did it because of this and that.
Yep.
Right. And really the only thing you need to actually make it happen is just a little bit of confidence and belief in yourself, because then you'll go out and you'll figure out how to do it. Right.
Yeah, I love that. All right. What are some of the most important factors to look for when buying a campground?
I mean, it's a lot like other types of real estate. Location matters, and when you're looking at location, what is the nature of the campground? What's its character? Is it a one night stopover on your way to somewhere else? If that's the case, what kind of traffic is going through there? Is it on a major freeway? Is it on the way to something bigger? And we've had some parks like that. That's what my first park was. Um, is it close enough to a major destination, a national park, an amusement park, a major metro that people are going to come and stay there because they need to be close to that other thing? So location is important, right? And then you also need to factor in what are the other types of things that influence camping and RV travel, right? How far away is it from population centers? We have a park in Wyoming that we bought, and just a couple weeks after we bought it, Yellowstone had a big flood, the roads closed, the park
Oh, no.
closed, and people just canceled their trips because the reason that they were going through that park was they were going to Yellowstone, they were going to Glacier, they were going to Banff, doing these big road trips. And the average traveler for that particular campground is coming over 800 miles, right? And so understanding that and how that could impact you is key. And we've learned some of that. So, how many people are close by, and if things get really expensive, gas goes up, are they going to take those 2,000-mile road trips? Or are they just going to go an hour and a half from home and have a quick weekend
Yes, maybe
vacation?
that's a good question. Is if somebody's trying to get started investing in campgrounds, should they look for the small local one in their backyard that just people just go out to the river and go camping, or should they go to the destination, the spot in the Smokies or Yellowstone, etc.?
I think you can do both. It really just depends on what it is that you want. The destination markets obviously are more competitive, and typically things are going to be more expensive, but you can still find a good deal or a less expensive park. And, maybe you can draft off of some of those bigger parks that are full and their rates are really high and people want to be there, but they want to pay less and they're okay staying a little bit further out. Like there's a lot of strategies that you can do there. The size of the deal will really depend on how well you can manage it remotely. So the historically within this business, people who are buying campgrounds were owner operators, right?
Yeah.
They've finished their first career. They're now, okay, well, what do we do? A lot of probably more blue collar people who like to get their hands dirty and work, don't want to sit around. So, they buy the campground, they move on to it, run it for 5 to 10 years, then sell it, and then finally retire. But that's not necessarily the case anymore. And so if you want to be an owner operator and you want to live on the campground and you want to run it, then, location doesn't matter as much, right? You can do that anywhere. Just pick a place that makes sense, right? The numbers have to make
Sure.
sense. All the things about the deal, you want to check those off. If you're trying to run it remotely, then, you're probably going to need something that's going to be a little bit bigger, that's going to generate enough revenue to pay for on-site management. But any one of those will work. You
Yeah.
just have to decide which path you want to go down.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, walk me through the rest of your story. Bring us up to date. Like, what have you bought since then? How many do you have now?
So 2 years after I bought my first park, had an opportunity to refinance. Rates had come down significantly. So this is 2020. Did a cash out refi and went to my high school best friend, college roommate, the one who read Rich Dad, Poor Dad
Yeah.
when we were
Yep.
in college, and I laughed at him. He'd been in Texas doing real estate for 10 years, had built up a portfolio of student housing, some multifamily, and he was a big motivating factor for me in getting into this, because sitting on the sidelines watching him thinking, like, that's awesome. I would love to do that, but I don't know how to do that. And so I went to him and was like, hey, there's an opportunity now to buy another park or 2 parks. And I think you should sell everything you've built over the last 10 years in Texas, move back to Utah, and then let's buy some campgrounds together. And he did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about why and what the opportunity was and the numbers, and he realized really quickly that there's a big opportunity. There's a big play here to do something really big. And so timing just worked out. So we partnered, we bought 2 parks in 2020, together and did the same thing, right? You buy it, you expand it, you make the sites better, you get the numbers up, you increase that value. And so at that point, we had done this now 3 times. We felt like we understand the model, we know what we're doing, we know what people are looking for, we get what our campers want. Now let's go do something big, let's scale it. And so going into 2021 is when we started our company, KCN, and we brought on a third partner. So at this point, it's me, Cam, and Nate. And Nate was a friend from Seattle. We met through our daughters, who were close friends, and he and I had become close, camping every summer with our girls. We moved back to Utah, and they'd come down, and we'd ski together in the winter and go camping in the summer. And we were actually staying at our campgrounds in the summer of 2021, and he started asking me questions about it, like, tell me about this business. I look around and the place is full. There's people here. They're having a good time. Like, let's talk about it. And so told him why we're doing it and what the numbers look like. And he said, this is really cool. If there's ever an opportunity to get involved, I'd really, really like to do it. So we started KCN, and then going into 2022, we started raising capital from friends and family, investors. Nate and Cam had been doing real estate for a while, and had built up a reputation. They had a list of people. So we raised some money that first year, bought 4 parks in 2022. Fast forward a couple of years, we've now just closed on our 9th park a couple months ago. And about a year and a half ago, I sold that first park that I bought.
Oh, really?
So held it for about 5.5 years, and then had a chance to take it full cycle.
What did you sell it for? Do you remember?
Sold it for 3.36.
That's great. So 1.25 to 3 point something. That's awesome.
So
man.
just under 3x what we bought it for.
Yeah.
Fantastic return. Very simple business model. It takes a lot of work to execute. It's hard to manage.
Yeah.
But we looked at that as, what's the opportunity here? If people want to get into this space, but they don't want to move on to the campground, or they don't want to self-manage, how can we solve that? Like, that's the big barrier to entry. So if we can create a system that does that, allows people to invest into RV parks and campgrounds, there might be a really big opportunity here for us.
This is a broad question, so you can take it where you want to, but like, how profitable is a campground? Like, how do you measure profit? Like, what does that look like? What can I expect, whether it's cash on cash return or cash flow? What do you look at?
So we're buying at 9 caps and 10 caps right now.
Okay.
We actually have, as of yesterday, have 2 portfolio opportunities that we're looking at, both in that 9 to 10 cap range. So as far as pricing goes, that's what we're kind of seeing. We look for 2.5 to 3 point spread between the interest rates and the cap rate, which means once we've applied our fee structure and our management, year 1, we expect to exceed 5% cash on cash. And then as we invest in the properties and build them up, over a 5 to 10 year period, we'll get that up into the mid-teens cash on cash. And then obviously there's a big bump when you sell, which we experienced when we took that first deal full cycle. And so, in general, it's about 2.5 equity multiple when you put it all together.
That's cool.
So we only buy parks that are existing, that are operating. They've got a history. We can see how much they've made, what the trends have been, who are the guests that are coming. So we know that the business is there. And then what's the strategy to grow that?
Are you ever buying them are they only KOAs? Are you buying them into KOAs, or like?
Currently, everything we have is a KOA.
And it started that way, or have you transitioned any?
No, they all started that way.
Okay.
And it really came down to that first property. So made a lot of great connections and friendships within that system, from not just the KOA corporate team that's there to support. We work with them really closely, but we made a lot of connections with other franchisees. And our deal flow has almost entirely been off-market people coming to us and saying, we know who you are, we know how you operate, we've talked to people that you've bought from, so we know what that goes like, doing that type of a deal. And what's funny about this is people have a real emotional attachment to these properties.
Yeah, for sure.
The last 3 parks that we bought have been owned by the same families for over 30 years each.
Wow.
They raised their kids there. They grew up on the campground, and then when they're finally grown and move away, the parents, they in a couple cases, they're second generation. They they've had their life there, and now it's hard. Kids aren't there anymore. It's exhausting, and so we've been really fortunate to have that type of network and relationships within this space that provides those opportunities. And KOA's been a great partner for us. That doesn't mean that that's all we'll ever buy,
Sure.
or that that's all we're looking for, but we have so much good inbound deal flow that it just makes sense to continue to grow that.
What would you say your biggest bottleneck right now? If I like to say there's like 4 primary bottlenecks for any real estate investor. It's either like deal flow, you're not getting enough deals, you lack the money, you lack the operational ability to manage as much as you have, or it's like a mindset of like, I just don't want to grow, or I can't grow because I don't know how to lead. Like if you pick out those 4 bottlenecks, where do you think the biggest bottleneck right now is?
Today, our biggest bottleneck is capital.
Okay.
And we go through, it's ups and downs, it's cyclical,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, operations were our challenge because we grew really fast and we didn't have a team to run it.
Yeah, I think of the 4 bottlenecks like a table, like there's like 4 legs of a table, and like they all like it wobbles. Like, and you just you lift one, and then all of a sudden the operations are messed up. So you fix your operations, and then you don't have enough deal flow because now you can do more, and then you need more money. So you just rotate between them. But
yeah, so right out of the gates, when we started raising capital, we bought 4 parks, and at the time when we first started closing on those, we didn't have a team.
Yeah.
So we had to build that up, and then we took a pause on growth and said, let's focus on making sure that we can deliver on these parks and the strategy, and make sure that we're treating our investors right, and we can do this at this scale before we create bigger problems. So, we hit pause, we focused on that. We actually partnered with a family office about a year ago, brought some liquidity into the company to help us hire some key roles so that we were positioned to have a much bigger scaled growth and look at, larger portfolio type opportunities, which is where we are today. So deal flow we've been really fortunate there. So we feel comfortable that there's, with the capital, we can go out and we can deploy it on some really good assets.
Yeah, that's
and that's kind of where we're focusing a lot of our time now, is how do we get the message out to the right people? How do we connect with the right groups? Make sure that they understand the ins and outs of this and get them comfortable with this type of asset class.
When it comes to operations, what are the most like surprising or maybe overlooked challenges in running a campground?
I mean, it's a hospitality business, right? And so what's key to making it work is focusing on the guest and what is their experience, because there's a reason that they're staying there. Either they need a place to stay because they can't afford an apartment, or they're bringing their family on a vacation and they want to have a good time, or they're on their way to somewhere else, right? And so understanding what it is that they want, why are they there, what are they looking for, and making sure that you're giving them that experience. Because it is the reason that you're at a campground is because you don't want to be at a hotel, or you don't want to be on an airplane. You'd rather be traveling and, kind of the historical American dream, right? Of hitting the road and seeing all the cheesy, attractions along the freeway. And, it's experiences that you remember, right? Like I've had this question before. People ask, like, what do you like about that? And I can tell you nothing about all the airports and hotels that I stayed at as a kid when I traveled around, but I can tell you a lot of experiences about road trips.
Yeah.
And that stuff sticks with you. And so, how do you then get your teams that are spread out in all these locations to focus on that and deliver it to the guests? Because they're the ones who are there talking with them every day. Right. And so we have to really do a good job and step up our game of delivering that type of experience to our teams, making, working at KCN and working with us something that they're proud of and excited about, and, gets them lit up so that they go out and do the same thing for the people that they're talking with on a daily basis that are coming through.
That makes sense. Anything specifically you can point to that you've done that have just been like that extra touch for a camper? Do we call them like a person staying, a resident? I don't know what you call them. But like, what is the thing that you've done that just makes people go like, oh, that's cool. Like, I like that place. I built a memory, or I like that. Like, what are some of those things?
So there's a couple different things we've done. Trying to, again, understanding who your guest is, who your camper is. And the data shows you there's more people traveling with their pets than with their kids. I think it's something like 65% of RVers travel with their pets. So we've put in private dog parks at some of our RV sites.
Cool.
So you could be on the road all day and you get in a park, and instead of putting your dog on a leash and walking him around, you can put him in this nice little fenced in area, but you can sit outside in your camp chair around the fire. The dogs are, able to run around. Things like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Understanding why they're there. So we engage with guests instead of trying to automate the whole process of how can we make it as simple as possible where they don't have to talk to anybody. You think about checking into a hotel now where you can do it through an app the day before you arrive and go straight to your room, and you never have to talk to anybody. And we've kind of leaned in the other way of let's make the most out of the touch points that we can, and ask people why they're there, and offer them suggestions of where to eat and what to go and do, and learn their names, and give little gifts to their kids. And we do scavenger hunts where the kids can go around and find things, and then there's a prize that
That's
they
cool.
get.
Yeah.
And it's just nothing's complicated about it. It's not hard to do that, other than it just takes time and effort, right?
Yeah.
And those things go a really long way.
What about hiring people to run these things? I mean, are they part-time staff, full-time staff? Are they on-site staff? Are they living there? Are they what's that look like?
It's a combination. So our managers at the parks are full-time, and they live on site. A lot of these properties, they come with housing. And there's a whole subculture of full-time RVers and work campers that they travel around, and the whole premise of it is they want to see the country, but they want to work. They don't want to just sit around, and maybe they need to, or maybe they just want to be productive. And so we have full-time managers on site, and then depending on the park, we'll have seasonal employees, and could be anywhere from 6 people up to 20 people working one of these properties during the peak part of the season.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of a combination. We've done some of the J1 visa program where we bring foreign college students in to work for the summer, give them a job, a place to stay, a cultural experience, an opportunity. And then, we've got roaming full-time RVers that come in, and, these are guys that can fix anything. They can look at a broken tractor and figure out how to make it run again. And they love that stuff.
Very cool. How does your, and maybe they don't, but how does your family play into the business at this point? Do your kids do anything? Are they involved at all? Your wife involved?
When early on, when the kids were a little bit younger, it was a lot easier to get them involved. And so I would take them down with me. We ended up, after that first summer, we ended up buying a house that was about 2 hours away from the park. And I was back and forth every week. And when I could, I'd take my kids, and they'd come and they'd answer phones and give them the keys to the golf cart, and they'd escort people and show them where their sites were, and pick up trash, and, help check people in and tell them about all the cool stuff. And, you get a little, 8-9-year-old kid that's super excited about it, talking to these people. It was a really cool experience for them. As they've gotten older and gotten busier in high school, it's a lot harder. And my role has evolved quite a bit to where I'm not on site at the campground as much as I used to. So that's just an opportunity that's not been as easy lately.
What are you doing to, if anything, to I don't know, educate your kids or bring them into this worldview that we have, the rich dad, poor dad worldview? What have you done there?
So one of the big things for me, right, the question is what's your why? Why are you doing this? There's other ways that you can make money. There's other things that are less challenging than running and scaling a business, right? But throughout this process over the last 8 years, as I've been trying to, learn as much as I can, and as you mentioned, right, how do you expand your mindset? Is this idea that I never thought about before, where you're kind of taught that what you do for your job, for your career, your occupation, is going to determine what kind of life you live, right? If you want to have a lot of money and buy nice things and have a nice house, then become a lawyer or a doctor and have a high-paying profession. And I think it's really a disservice in a lot of ways, because you can achieve that, but it doesn't have to be tied. Your identity, your lifestyle doesn't necessarily have to be tied to what you do for a job. And so that's a big driver for me, is how do I build something that will provide my kids, my team, the people who work for us, an opportunity to do something that they enjoy, but still have the ability to live a life that may be above what that might actually be, right? And so an example of that is my son's always loved animals. He's a huge horse aficionado, loved horses. Last year he started volunteering at the zoo. He's done some internships at the aquarium and like wanted to, do these summer camps and things. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to work with animals. But the idea as a parent of, okay, well, I will support you. I think that's awesome. But that's not going to provide you with necessarily a great financial future.
Yep.
So how can I help them understand that there's different things you can do? Real estate's a great conduit for that.
Yeah.
That can be what you do and spend your time on and what really lights you up. But you can also start to build a portfolio of real estate and investments that will allow you to do other things.
Yeah. Do you think they will get into real estate?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think I'll force them to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll make it easy for them. Whether or not they really want to do it or follow in what we're doing, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I want them to just do something that excites them.
Yeah.
But if I can create something that allows them to have opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have, then that's kind of what keeps me going.
What is your best parenting advice as a dad who's now had kids go through most of the teenage years, and mine are just, my daughter's almost 9, so I'm going into it soon. What's your best advice for me?
I mean, it goes fast. Everybody says that. And each phase is different, right? And you look back on it and you're like, oh, when they were, 2 or 3, it was super fun. And then they go through this different phase and I miss that. But there's just so many great things about every part of the evolution that they go through. And so it's just like, how do you become a part of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? And it gets harder as they get older, where they don't depend on you and they're looking more towards their friends for, comfort and validation. And, it's harder to be as involved. And so like for us, it's been this kind of ongoing challenge of how do we make our lives and make ourselves so exciting that our kids want to be, they want to be around us. But also at the same time, accepting that they may not want to do that all the time and giving them their space, but just being available for them when they're ready.
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to the transition where right now, I'm my kid's favorite person. My wife and I are our kids' favorite people, and all they want to do is be with us. And, sometimes that's annoying. I'm just like, I just want to read a book, but they want it so badly just to always be with us and more cuddles and more snuggles. And it's always just meeting more. And then that transition of swapping that to I don't want to be with you. I want to go with my friends. I'm terrified of that moment.
It will happen overnight and it will be, it'll be terrifying.
Yeah.
And there'll always be an opportunity to have an impact on your kids, right? And sometimes it's just not on your schedule.
Yeah.
You just have to be ready for it when they're willing and open to it.
Oh,
so
that's good, man.
And sometimes it requires you to do something big and something different. My daughter and I just got back 2 weeks ago from hiking to Everest Base Camp.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
And that was one of those opportunity came. Someone, a buddy of mine, a guy I had met over the last couple of years, invited me to go. And, how do you say no to that? Who else is going to come and say, do you want to go on this adventure of a lifetime? But then being able to share that with my daughter, she's not going to say no to that. Right. And that'll be something that she'll remember forever.
Yeah, forever. Tell me about that trip. And what was that like? How long was it?
I mean, it's a 3-week trip. We were gone. Wow. For a full 3 weeks. We went with a group. It was guided. It was very well planned out. And it was hard. There's a lot harder things. We had porters that were carrying our bags and, we're not sleeping on the ground, right? We had places to stay and there's, people cooking for us. So it was not roughing it, but, it's 8 to 10 hour days hiking.
Wow.
We're at the end of it, you're 17,500 feet elevation and, it's a struggle, but really kind of emotional, spiritual, physical experience that brought us all as a group really close together. But being able to spend 24/7 with my daughter, no friends, no boyfriend, no phone, this, it's just us. We're going to connect.
How old's your daughter?
Really special. She's 18.
Okay. How'd you navigate dating with your dating rules for your kids? Did you have them?
I rely on my wife a lot to just tell me when to not get involved. My daughter, my son's not at that stage yet. My daughter's been, she's been dating for a little while and it's, at some point you just have to step back and say, I've done everything I can do to this point, and it's up to them to make choices.
Yeah.
And give them that opportunity and be there for them if they make a wrong choice and need some support.
Yeah.
But we went through it. We're making dumb decisions all the time now, right? And so you have to accept that you can't control everything.
Yep.
And you just do what you can when they're little to create an example or some kind of standard for them to aspire to.
Yep.
And then you just hope that you did a good enough job that they'll remember it.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Last personal question before I go back to real estate. What are 3 things you absolutely love about your wife?
Oh, that is, yeah. It's gonna be hard to narrow it down to 3. There's a few things. So she has been incredibly influential in me in this journey of getting to where I am today, because if we were to have met 7-8 years ago, you probably would have said, you don't have the mindset, you don't have the belief, you're not ready for this, and she's been really, really supportive in helping me to believe in myself. Cool. And like actually feel confident that I can do this, that I have what it takes, and being open to just accepting, the good things that I have, the bad things that I have, and that's okay. But just, be who you are, and you can make it happen.
Yeah. Very cool.
So she's always been supportive of me, but probably the biggest thing for me is, and the reason that we got married so quickly, is she is an amazing mother.
Mm.
And that was always important for me.
Yeah.
Is like, if this is the one person that's going to have the most impact on my kids,
yeah,
I need to make sure it's the right.
Yeah, for sure.
So, that's been amazing to watch her, and to see her grow as a mom, and the relationship we have, that we both have, but especially that she has with our kids, and how much they look up to her is pretty special.
Oh, so good, man. All right. Wait, was that 3 or was that 2?
That was only 2.
All right, one more.
One more. Again, another thing that drew us close together really quickly is she just knows how to have fun.
Oh, that's cool.
She's always up for a good time. And she makes sure that the people that are around her are having fun.
Yeah.
And so there's never a dull moment. Cause she's always just the happiest, the funnest person in the room.
Very cool, man. We'll take it back to real estate for a couple of closing questions there. First of all, what is your long-term vision? Like, do you want to buy a bunch of them, sell them up to private equity, or are you going to keep acquiring and hold them forever? Or what do you see the future looking like?
So part of the play here, that we saw early on, is that this industry is very fragmented.
Yeah.
And if I go back to the things that I was studying and learning when I was getting into this, is other asset classes have gone through this cycle where, you look at what mobile home parks were 20, 30 years ago and where they are today, and how it went through this consolidation where you have all these, mom and pop owners. Attention comes to the asset class. They realize that it has high cash flow, high cap rates, great depreciation, things that are better or more appealing than other asset classes that are more competitive. So it goes through the consolidation. There's cap rate compression, drives values up, and, brings in a lot more of those, larger scaled opportunities. And then the same thing happened with self-storage.
Yep.
And so we looked at it and said, we're really early in this cycle. And I think there's a big play here to do a roll-up strategy. Let's go build a portfolio of great assets, because there's people out there, there's large investors that want to get into the space, but they can't do it at the scale that they need to.
For sure.
Right? They're not going to go out and buy a $5 million park and then do it again and do it again and do it again, but they'll spend, $100 million on buying a portfolio. So our strategy is, let's aggregate a portfolio of great assets. Let's make them better. Let's stabilize the cash flow, and then we can package it all together as a strong cash flowing, stabilized, institutional scale portfolio. Yeah. At which point there'll be a lot of exit options.
Yeah, perfect. That's what we're trying to do at Open Door Capital too with the mobile home park stuff. Yeah, because the big guys, they don't want to spend $5 million. They want to spend $100 million. And
Yeah.
so you got to get up there. So
Yeah. And it's crazy how accelerated this path has been. We always looked at it and said, okay, well, let's do a 10-year horizon.
Yeah.
That'll give the industry enough time to kind of grow and get the attention. It'll give us the time that we need to build that portfolio. And it's accelerating faster and faster. We're looking right now at an opportunity, 2 separate opportunities that we'll probably bundle here in the next couple of months. And it's $45 million worth of acquisitions on 6 parks.
Wow.
And combined, they're doing, $12 million in revenue and, like 4 million of NOI, 5 million of NOI. And so like we can go out and we can do that. Rinse and repeat. And then all of a sudden you've got a really, really attractive portfolio.
Very cool. All right, last one. Maybe I said that, but last one on this topic. What's the biggest mistake you see new investors make when they're trying to get into campgrounds?
I think they look at it as any other real estate investment. And we've seen we've seen people come into the space and treat it like self-storage, mobile homes, and they come in as deal makers and not operators.
Yeah.
And
it's very operational heavy.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's a big barrier. It's not an easy puzzle to solve, and it's something that we'll continually be working on. But we've seen other people that came in at the wrong time, all the attention coming out of COVID of, okay, well, here's this great asset class. There's great cash flow. There's high returns. You can't get this anywhere else. Nobody else is cash flow positive, but you can still get high cap rates here. But they don't understand what it takes to operate it. And I think you need to look at it as, this is a hospitality business, but you've got to focus on delivering that experience to guests, and that will eventually drive the results that you want. But it's not a passive investment.
Yeah.
And that's I think the biggest mistake is people think, well, we can raise money, we can put together big deals, and then we'll just find someone else to run them for us. Yep. And third-party management in campgrounds historically has been a real challenge. And there's some people doing it now and some people that do it well, but we approached it with the mindset of, if we're going to be selling this to our investors, we're going to control how it's going. And if something goes wrong, it's us, right? Yep. Like that's kind of like our warranty on the investment. We can't just point the finger or fire someone and bring someone else in. Yeah. So it's really, I think that's the biggest hurdle.
Yeah. Cool, man. All right, let's move on to the 3-2-1 pivot. So this idea of a pivot, meaning your life's going one direction and something gets in its way, knocks it in a more positive direction. So we'll start with 3 books that have changed the direction of your life.
I'll start with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If it wasn't for that book and a friend giving it to me, I wouldn't have ever considered real estate. Yeah. I probably would have done something different career-wise, but it definitely wouldn't have been this. And as a lot of people say, that book kind of opens your eyes to a lot of things, but it doesn't necessarily teach you how to do it. Yep. But if it wasn't for that mindset shift, I wouldn't have found this opportunity. So definitely important. Another one that has actually really resonated with me lately is a book called The Comfort Crisis.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
And not really have anything to do with real estate, but just this idea of we've become way too comfortable in our life and we really don't grow until we put ourselves out of that comfort zone. And that's pushed me in a lot of ways, probably more so personally than professionally. Like I wouldn't have done this Everest trip if it wouldn't have been for that book.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right? Like it kind of put me in the mindset of, if an opportunity comes to do something big and do something hard that's going to push you, then you need to do it.
Yeah, awesome.
And the third book, it's kind of a funny one, is The Hobbit.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So that was my favorite book growing up. I probably read it a dozen times. And I reread it recently, and it's kind of funny because now I can connect some dots of why it was impactful. And it kind of goes along with that same thing, right? Theme where, you're comfortable in your life, things are good, and then something happens and pushes you out. And, this idea of using adventures and that type of lifestyle to grow and expand. Maybe some people think it's a bit of a stretch, but that's really what the story is about, right? You put yourself out there, you go do something hard, you meet new people, and you come back a different person.
Are you pro the Hobbit movies or are you anti the Hobbit movies?
When they came out, I didn't like the first one.
Okay.
I like the second and the third ones better. I actually rewatched them just about a month ago when I finished rereading the book. I mean, obviously the book's better,
Yeah.
but they're entertaining.
Yeah, they're fun.
There's a lot in there that they made it into drag it out into
Yeah.
a 3-part series. That, I mean, it's not a long book.
Yeah.
You know, you can read that book in like a day.
Yeah, I think they're fine. I know some people really don't like them, and they weren't the Lord of the Rings, but yeah, I like them.
Yeah, it's the story that I really like.
Did you hear? Isn't Amazon Prime coming out with a Lord of the Rings, like a remake of that? I think somebody's coming out with a remake soon.
I don't
The
know.
Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think I heard about that. All right, 2 people who have changed the direction of your life. 2 pivot people.
I would say, I mean, we talked about my wife Jill.
Yeah,
for sure, it's her. Again, being supportive, allowing me the freedom and flexibility to go do something crazy.
Yeah,
and being there for me on the good days and the bad days. So she's my number one for sure. For the number 2, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to throw my partners in there.
okay.
So we've now got there's 4 of us: Cam, Nate, and my brother Todd. That was one of our first hires when we started KCN. He's now a partner in the company. Being able to lean on them when things get hard and when I have a crazy idea, and like telling them, hey, I'm going to fly to Hawaii to go meet with this guy and be on his podcast. And it's going to cost a lot of money to get out there, but I think it's going to be really, really good experience. And they're like, yeah, absolutely, go do it. Right?
Cool.
Like, couldn't run the business, couldn't build it without him. And even if I could, I wouldn't want to do it alone.
Cool. All right. What about one quote that has changed the direction of your life?
So this is a quote that goes back to when I was a teenager, and something that again, looking back, kind of connecting the dots of how this stuff all comes together. It's a Gordon B. Hinckley quote that says, try a little harder to be a little better. And it's like, it's the little things, right? And reading Atomic Habits and the whole story of the law of marginal gains and what the British cycling team did. And you think about it, it's the exact same principle.
Yeah.
Right? Like just a little bit more effort to just do a little bit better. And whatever that aspect of your life is, right? Whether it's personally, professionally, your relationships, business, doesn't matter. Just do a little bit better.
That's so good. I had not heard that before. I like that a lot. Let's go past, present, future. So we'll start with the past. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self looking back now?
I'd probably do 2 things. One is just believe in yourself that you can do big things, because at that point in time, I didn't.
Yeah, same.
And also probably the biggest thing would be like, find someone that's done something. Find someone who's built a business, who's been successful, who's out there, and go find a way to work for them. Offer to work for free. Do whatever you can to get in their sphere and learn how they're doing it, and just soak up as much of that as you can. Learn how to add some value. And then once you've got to a point where you've kind of understood the basics of what they're doing, then go do it for yourself. Yeah,
perfect. In the present, what is something you've done in the past, 6 months, a year? We'll say besides the Everest trip, but like what that just giving you a better life? Could be a trip, could be a habit, could be a routine, an action. Something you've done that's just given you a better life.
Yeah, one of the things I've added to my habit tracking is this idea of once a week doing something adventurous. Like I've got a list of things, right? It's it's daily fitness, it's eating right, it's weekly date night, those types of things. But I found that one of the things that drew me into what we're doing now is this kind of adventure lifestyle. And over time, I just wasn't taking advantage of the opportunities. And so it doesn't matter what it is. It could be going for a hike once a week, getting out on my bike and riding. It could be going golfing, go bowling, just something, right? Yeah. Find a hobby, find something, and just go out and do it. It doesn't matter what it is, but just get outside. Awesome. Get out of your normal, like away from your computer, your TV, and go do something fun. Yeah,
very cool. I love it. And in the future, someday when you pass away, your kids are going to be standing above your casket. You're 120 years old, and they're going to be talking about you. What do you want them to say about you?
Oh man. That's not a question that I really think about much. I mean, to be honest, I think it'd be probably be more about like what did I do that had given them the opportunity, the motivation to go do something for themselves, right? Like, he gave us the playbook, or he gave us the path, gave us the opportunity to make something of ourselves that maybe we couldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, that's cool. Love it. All right, man, well, let's wrap things up. First of all, what's coming up in your life that you're excited for? Could be business or personal.
A lot of things. 20th wedding anniversary next month.
Oh, very cool. Congrats.
So my wife and I are going to Rome. Super excited for that. Cool. My daughter's graduating high school.
Yep.
That's big.
Huge.
She this fall she's going to Africa to teach English before she starts college.
Wow.
So like on the family front, a lot of big changes. Super exciting. My son just got his driver's license. It's like all these big milestones. On the professional front, we've got a lot of opportunities, some big, scaled growth to, double the size of our company in the next couple of months. Yeah. And it's a lot of work to do that. We got to raise a lot of money.
Yep.
But that provides a lot of opportunities for our team, and will open up a lot of really cool doors for us to continue to accelerate that growth.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Well, where can people find out more about you and about your company? If they want to invest with you, if they just want to learn about you and follow you, where do they go?
All the normal channels. Try to be active on LinkedIn and Instagram. Our website, caseyandcampgrounds.com, tells a bit of our story and ways that you can connect with us. Reach out any one of those, especially if you're interested in learning more about campgrounds and investing opportunities. We're always looking for people that are interested in showing them what type of investment opportunities we provide and what that might look like for them.
Very cool. What's your social? What's your handles?
Camping Kevin KCN.
Okay.
On Instagram, and then you can just find me, Kevin Thueson, on LinkedIn.
Perfect, man. Hey, this has been awesome. This has been like a perfect podcast for me. I learned a ton of stuff. Learned some good stories, and I'm fired up to go buy some campgrounds.
Yeah,
I love it.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Thanks, man. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Better Life Podcast. We hope you enjoy the show. I hope you got some valuable insights to help you lead a better life for you and your family. Now, hey, if you found value in this episode, please consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us to improve the show, helps us reach more people with this message of living that better life. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And hey, before I go, this show is all about the habits, actions, beliefs, and strategies that can give you a better life. But in case you're interested and you want to know my opinion on what it takes to live the best life, not just better, and that's from like a more spiritual and faith standpoint, check out abetterlife.com/bestlife. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Better Life Podcast.